Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second session for today. Joining me is John Hotson. He is the partner of Business Transition Alliance, and his topic for today is Grow, Exit, or Step Back, Building Value in Uncertain Times. John is a speaker, entrepreneur, writer, and senior advisor to business owners. John has started and run 7 companies, advised business executives in dozens of industries, and given hundreds of presentations and speeches. John is a founding, and as I mentioned in the beginning, John is the founding partner of the Business Transition Alliance. Thank you, John, for your presentation today. Good luck, and I will be back near the end just to help close everything out.
Great. Thank you very much, Sandy. Welcome, everyone. As mentioned, I'm a partner in an organization called the Business Transition Alliance, and we work with business owners who are at a point of transitioning their company. They probably long-term want to exit. That seems to be the plan for almost everybody. But in the meantime, they may have to adapt to what's changed in the last few months or start to dramatically grow their business. And we're going to talk to you today about these aspects and what they all have in common and what should owners actually be doing at this time. So we've got a lot to cover, and it's all around building value. And we're going to talk about what value really is, what impacts value, and where do you start when you're trying to build out that value. What are the top value drivers, and how has this pandemic impacted business value? We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some outside perspective to bring to that, some people we've talked to. Is this a good time to sell my business? I know Alan was just talking about buyers. Is this a good time to get out there? And we'll give you a little bit of a sense of how you maybe want to approach that. I've got a case study client we've worked with for some time that covers off a lot of these points. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's coming down in the future in the next few years and how that may impact you and what you may want to do and maybe how we can help. So lots to cover, and we're going to do it in 30 minutes. Excuse me, what is value? We look at value in a broad term, and it's all forms of value that determine success and potential saleability of the company. So it's the ongoing operational success of it, financial and otherwise, and the ultimate saleability of it. And it goes beyond purely the economic side, the EBITDA, or as they call it now, EBITDAC, now that COVID has got a role in all of this. And we talk a lot about a variety of value propositions, the employee value, the customers and suppliers you work with, your business model. You know, have you got intellectual property? What's your brand look like? These are all components of value. Societal value, that's becoming more and more important in these uncertain times. So we're going to cover off a lot of these points, but I want to start with the big view of, you know, what impacts value and kind of where do I, or you as a business owner or an advisor to business owners, where do you start? I've created what I call a value framework that can cover off the wide area of things that impact value in business today. And at the outer edge of this framework is what I call the macro environment. And these are all those big things that are out there. There's the economy, regulation, demographics, all of these things which you as a business owner can't really control. However, you can strengthen your business to be able to accommodate and address some of these issues that may be having pressures on the value of your company. So that's the macro value. And we've probably never seen as serious a disruptor a value disruptor in our lifetimes as we're going through right now. And so what are some of the things we can be doing and you can be doing as owners to kind of work through that? Next in on this is what I call the market value. And these are the customers. These are the things you deal with on a regular basis in your company. They're your competitors, your suppliers. How is what these people are doing in your world impacting the value of your business? For example, if your competitors lower their price and you're in a kind of commodity style business and that forces you to lower your price, what pressure is that putting on your profits, on your margins, and your ultimate ability to scale the business or to sell the business? So the case study that I'm going to take you through deals with that in a way of how we help differentiate that business in order for them to have something that was a bit unique in the marketplace. So those are the issues that surround you on a regular basis. But what's at the center of all of this is what I call the microenvironment. And these are the strategies you have as a company, the people, your culture, how people work, the routines, the processes, all of those things. And that's where you start when it comes to building value. You start with this microenvironment of your company, right at the dead heart center of what you do on a day-to-day basis. And this, shows up in your business strategies. How long has it been since you renewed your business strategy? Certainly a lot of people have reviewed that recently in the light of the pandemic. What are you doing with your sales plans? Are you working on defined processes, written down, documented processes? All of these things are things that people from the outside looking at your business will say, those are things that I'm going to examine in order to determine what the true value of this business is. Your performance metrics, are they aligned with the ultimate goals of the company so that everything that everybody does on a day-to-day basis tracks to where this company is going? So that's where you need to start in terms of the capabilities you've got as a company and the actions you can take to build the value. Let's talk about value drivers and what are they and how do you determine what's important in your business? For a long time, we've been giving these presentations for some time now, and for a long time, we always had one that was at the top, and it's still at the top, and that's the strong management team. In our world, the people we talk to, these are the things that tend to drive value more than any of the other drivers that organizations deal with. If you've got a strong management team, and I'm going to come back to this a couple of times a little later on, those are the people that are going to make or break this business, especially if you're thinking of leaving the company and you don't want all of that talent, if you will, to reside with yourself. It's got to reside with that management team. Of course, stable cash flow is a necessity in terms of being a value driver, and outside potential buyers are certainly going to look at that from the perspective of how well you manage that cash flow. Revenue trends, of course. This is especially, and you'll hear from an outside perspective on this in a couple of minutes, but this is especially important in these times when we've gone through these dramatic changes. Are the trends that you see now for your business relevant? They may have been relevant a year and a half ago, but are they relevant today? Have you had to pivot your business in order to stay competitive? And have those revenue trends in that new pivoted business set you up for a rosy future, if you will? Those are important issues that people from the outside are going to want to know. The strength of your brand. Does your brand reflect where you're going as a company or where you've been as a company? And right now, if you look closely out there, you'll see a lot of companies are rebranding themselves and taking a different position in the market than they may have taken before, because they want to reflect that they have changed. They have made that pivot in all of this, and they're coming out stronger for it. And that strength is reflected in that new brand. Have you looked at that brand lately and decided, yeah, maybe it's time to freshen that up? If you're in an asset-heavy business, the condition of your assets is obviously important, and it's never been more important than right now. And documented processes, I touched on this briefly a little bit earlier. If you are the owner, the person who has started and built up this company, and you've got a lot of these processes in your head, that becomes very difficult to sell going down the road. So the more you can document that, and the more your employees can align with that, the more that as a value driver is going to appeal to a third party on the outside. They want to know, stepping into this business, that the employees, that management team, are going to have the same skills that you may have had as an entrepreneur starting up at this company. We talked a little bit about revenue trends, and it goes with growth potential. The direction you're heading as a company now, does it have the potential that's reflected in the market, that the market is demanding these days? And the one that comes in here, kind of number 8 on our list, is a diversified customer base. It's always been important to not be too over-reliant on one or two prime customers. It's never been more important. So that's where we kind of sum up, if you will, the top 8 value drivers that we look at. Again, this is what we see and what we hear with the clients and people that we talk to. The other lists maybe vary a little bit, but not a lot. So how has this pandemic impacted business? value. And I wanted to talk to people who are, in this business, closely talking to people and working with people day to day. And the first person I talked to is Colin Walker. And Colin is managing director of Crosby. Crosby's a M&A shop in Toronto. And here's what Colin has to say. M&A hates uncertainty. Although market activity and situations have come back, and what he's referring to here is in March of 2020, M&A was on very shaky grounds. Nobody really knew whether this was going to have a lasting impact on valuations or whether it wasn't. And so the market really took a dive. M&A came to a pretty big stall about 18 months ago. Excuse me. That has changed and turned around fairly dramatically in the last 18 months. And valuations have come back. And as you're probably reading, the number of M&A transactions has never been higher. They're about to set another record on this globally, but certainly in North America, they're coming back very strong. But buyers remain selective. And this is what we're talking about today. And by selective, I mean, as a result, the vendors need to be able to clearly explain how COVID has impacted the business now and into the future. And buyers, and there are buyers, but they are being very highly selective about the businesses that they will take a serious look at. And Colin goes on to say that thorough and thoughtful preparation is critical. It's the opportunity for sellers of businesses, to improve the business and create the best ingredients they can to take it into the M&A process. Do as much as you can to create the best ingredients to take into an M&A process. And what he means by that is working on all those micro issues that we talked a little bit about earlier that are operating at the very micro center of the business, to strengthen those as much as possible so that when you go into an M&A process and people start to dig down and really do the diligence on the business, they will find strength. So that's Colin. Now let's move over to Melanie Russell, is the president of Kalex Valuations. And Kalex is a Toronto-based valuations company. And Melanie kind of talks about this, and she sees this every day, obviously, in valuing companies. And she talks about the fundamentals of valuation really are going to be no different in a post-COVID situation she's referring to. Businesses will still be judged on how well you understand your business. For example, how you make money and how clearly you can communicate your value. And do you have sound, believable projections? So, I mean, that's not really very different than the way it's always been. It's just a little bit more serious, and people are taking a lot more serious look at how you are prepared to deal in a post-COVID environment. And do you have these sound, believable projections? So, bottom line, while a lot of things haven't changed dramatically, and we are seeing an uptick in the number of businesses that are either coming up for sale or people are interested in having a look at, it's quite an increased number. The ones that have those sound, believable projections and people clearly understand how you make your money, those are the ones that are going to get the second look. So to the question, is this a good time to sell your business? And of course, the answer is it depends. And I know that that's not the answer you were looking for, but it depends on how sound you have been dealing with those micro-environmental issues in your company. Have you been working on your business strategy? Have you been working on your sales plans? Are your employees engaged? If you've had to pivot your business, were your key employees, your senior management team, were they part of the decision-making that went into that pivoting? And are they emotionally invested in the outcome of that? Are your processes defined, well written out, and easy to understand so that anybody coming in can manage that company? Turnover is very high in companies right now. And people have gone through this situation and said, I'm moving on. And so you need to be able to make sure you can replace those people with processes that don't require a huge ramp up of time. Performance metrics, are they aligned with where your company is now going if you've made a change? And operational efficiencies, are you maximizing the efficiencies of your company so that you can maximize the value? So in other words, are you getting your business ready so you can be prepared for any downturn? And this may not be the last of these kinds of situations that we see. And if you haven't done that work on that micro business of the center of your company, then you are not going to be ready. If you have done all those things and you're working hard on the core business that you're in now, then this is a very good time to sell your business. As I'm sure you're hearing, there's a lot of money on the sidelines. People are looking at opportunities, but they are being very selective. And as Colin said earlier in that little quote, they are looking for businesses that are well run and well managed and have good plans and have believable plans for the future. But if you're in that category and you're doing that work, this could be a very good time for you. Let's talk a little bit about this company that I was mentioning earlier. They're an environmental engineering company. We've been working with them for several years. And the situation here is that there were 3 owners, and over the next 3 to 5 years, when we came into it about 5 years ago, they wanted to start transitioning out. The challenge they faced was that some 90% of their revenue came from the 3 owners. The senior managers weren't engaged and weren't actually contributing to the top line growth of the company. And it's not because they weren't smart people. These are very educated and talented people. It just wasn't seen as part of their job. The company was faced with a lot of regulatory issues and economic issues. Of one of their key sectors in the mining industry, we had a downturn. Regulation was always a big component and always is a big component of the environmental services business. They had no marketing expertise, and they had some very established competition, and their service was not differentiated. They were a Me Too service-oriented business. And these people needed to dramatically raise the revenue and start making exit plans. And so where did we start? Well, no surprise, we started at that micro-environmental level with the strategy, the people, the culture of the company, to get the people more involved. And this is where we were going to start not only building the value, but building out the ability for the 3 owners to exit the business. So we started by doing some individual client interviews, talked to a dozen of their clients across North America to ask them the questions. Why do you deal with this company? What's different about them? And we did some internal work with the key staff. We did the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And we started taking them through some marketing education so that they could start to build an understanding of why this was important for them as employees, but also for the strength and the longevity of the business. And the staff then started to build out their own thoughts of what their value propositions or value statements look like based on the internal work we did with the staff and the external feedback that we got from the dozen or so clients that we talked to. We then developed through that something that differentiated them. As I mentioned, they were in a very competitive business where most of the business was being won through RFP, and the larger companies were able to undercut them in price. And so it was a tough time to make a buck in the business. And so we started to change the conversation with clients about why they should deal with this company. And we started talking about value, the value that their key management could bring to their clients, and the value of how, through their approach to helping them do their work, they could make their clients more successful. We changed that conversation away from talking about price. So what happened over the last few years in starting to change that conversation, and through the efforts of marketing them, the brand awareness of them being a differentiated company had started to take hold. The revenues increased because there were clients out there who wanted to deal with a company who respected them as clients and talked about their needs and their value as opposed to price. And their revenues increased as well. And here's the exciting part. More than 75% of that revenue started to come from the management team as opposed to those 3 owners. Well, that was a huge difference than what it had been in the past. This market disruptor that we helped them create started to deliver a differentiated value, and the employees, because they had been a part of creating that, were able to stand up and say, I believe in that. That's part of me out there. And as a result, they were starting to attract some key personnel who wanted to work in that company. In the last 12 months, it's been tough, although they've been steadily working and working with clients. But we also started to develop a series of videos that they play on their website, and they feature the employees, not the senior manager, not the owners, the senior managers. It's them that we wanted to focus on, and they talk about this differentiated value that they can bring to clients. And the managers are now out looking for ways to tell that story. So they teach courses on it now, and at industry seminars, even though those are all online now, they're able to spread the word through being subject matter experts on this differentiated strategy. And as I say, as a result, they are attracting new personnel. The bottom line here is that this is a company that over the years, and it's taken 3 or 4 years to get here, has turned from a very much a business that was driven primarily and essentially and exclusively by the senior partners to now having the management team being responsible for that, as well as the sales revenues going up. They were distributed more across the basis of the management team. So that makes that company a lot more saleable. I just want to wind up here with something that I'm sure you've been aware of, but I wanted to bring out some key points around what's happening around this baby boomer retirement and all of the changes that we're starting to see. Here's a number that you may not be familiar with, but this 1,223,476, that's the number of small and medium-sized businesses in Canada as of Stats Canada last year. Now, that number is obviously floating around a little bit based on what's been going on, but it's a significant number. In fact, it's 99.8% of all companies in Canada are small, medium-sized. Small is defined by 1 to 99 employees, medium 100 to 499. So they make up almost 100%, 99.8% of all the businesses and all the companies in Canada. Here's another number that's, when you put these together, it starts to become a little bit worrisome. 47% is the number of all small, medium company owners that are planning to exit within the next 5 years. If you take that out to 10 years, it's 72%. So that's 72% of that 1.2 million companies we talked about a little bit earlier. And I've done the math on this, and that represents some 575,000 to 880,000 businesses over the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, where businesses are going to transition, owners are going to exit. So what does that mean? And to the next generation owners are going to have choices. It just means that with all of those businesses coming onto the market for sale or for exit or for some kind of a transition, potential buyers for those businesses are going to have a lot of choices. So owners need to be prepared to have the very best company, the operating company that they can have, because the situation and the demand is going to continue to increase, but it's only going to increase for companies that are well managed. The saying is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. Now is the time to start seriously looking at how you can start to get your business in better shape for the transition that's ahead. And talking about you and why you're here, what are the things that you should be doing in the next short term? Start getting clarity on your specific value drivers. Talk to people, talk to your clients, talk to your employees, and find out why they do business with you. What is it that is driving the value of your company as opposed to others? And once you've got those and start an idea of what those value drivers are, start to identify strategies that can further build the awareness of those strengths. And maybe there are other things that are similar to what you're doing that you can be doing, and stop doing the things that aren't adding value. So identify those strategies and then start and implement measurable initiatives that can build value. To understand them is one thing, to identify strategies to put them in place is another, but the third and most important is to put plans in place and implement them in order to start building out that value. And the suggestion that I have for you today is do that now. What we do with clients is we take them through what we call an impact report. And this is really a 17-point diagnostic report on all. I don't expect you to read all that, but it's all aspects of the business. It's marketing, it's sales, it's IT, it's infrastructure, it's finances. everything that you as a business owner come across every day. We sit down and we talk about that. And we put it on a scale as to how that may have been impacted in the last 18 months and whether or not it's of a low priority that you should worry about it and start fixing it. It's sort of a medium priority, or whether it's a high priority. And that's what's over in that right-hand column over there, the things that are a high priority that you need to focus on right away and put plans in place to change if you want to start and continue to build a value. And then we put plans, help you put plans together to roll that out over a period of time to implement those plans and take you to a point where you can now say, we've done what we can to improve the value of the company. So bottom line is we help you bring the clarity, focus on the strategies, and we can help you provide those and implement those strategies through a plan. So if you have any questions, there's a website there you can visit, btahelps.com, and you can get my coordinates through BTA. And I want to thank you for your time and for listening today, and hope that everything goes well for you going forward. Thank you.
Hi, John. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was actually just going to say, just before you wrap up here, are you able to put your contact information or your LinkedIn, whichever you prefer, into the chat for everyone to jot down or copy if they'd like?
I can do that, yes.
Okay.
I'll just do that while you're on the line, just to make sure we got it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yep, so it's just everyone in the session on the right-hand side, just on the session tab. John just left his email address there if you'd like to contact him after the event. So we do have our panel starting in 1 minute. So if everyone would like to head over to the main stage, just on the left-hand side, if you click stage, the panel will be happening right there from 3:30 until 4 o'clock, which is the end of the event. And John, I'd like to thank you again for your presentation today. Thank you for taking the time and being here. And thank you for everyone just joining the event and being here with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone.